Here we go.
All right, that's Heather Anne Lomax performing the song from the Doman Tracks, a personal collection of original tunes recorded with the late Michael Doman, formerly the singer, songwriter, producer of the noted 80s LA rock band Broken Homes. Here's Heather to fill us in on the album's backstory.
Well, we made this record years and years ago, and I basically just parted ways with Michael, and this was 2 years in the making, and there was a point where I was like, look, I am going to move on if this is not attended to. Michael was a creative genius, but I think he was his own worst enemy.
Right.
And so after like 2 years and 6 months, I actually just parted ways and said, I wish you the best, and I have to move on because
Yeah, it can only
2
go.
years is a long time to wait.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah. And so we just kind of parted ways for a while, and then came back, and we're friendly towards each other, and he just kept asking me to release this record. And in the meantime, I was doing other projects and releasing other things. So it never quite worked out. And unfortunately, it took him passing for me to release this. And I have to give credit to my daughter, because she was the one who I saw, she was doing homework and she was playing the tracks from that record, and they were mixed, but they weren't mastered. So
Right.
she told me, Mom, you really should release this.
Gotcha. Yep. So for those who are unfamiliar with Michael, explain to the uninitiated who he is and why they should be listening to him.
Well, a part of me doing this project, aside from wanting to honor him and respect his, creativity and his artistry, I'm hoping too that they will release some of his music. I know they have released some of it.
Right.
He was with a band called Broken Homes on MCA Records back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, early
Yep.
90s, with Craig Ross, Michael Graves, Jimmy Ashurst. And so you can find some of their stuff online. But he had also, some of his own solo stuff that's really profound and just incredible, really incredible. So,
All righty. So
yeah.
what I read leading up to me talking to you is that he could also be a rather perfectionist in the studio when you were making these tracks. So elaborate on that, if you will.
Oh, yeah. I mean, God bless Jason Hiller, who played bass and engineered this record. He's a saint, because Michael would just nitpick at one thing and for an entire day, and then the next day want to redo it. So
right. That's got to drive you
that's
nuts.
tough. But I respect it. And back in the day, I have to say this, there were times where I just thought, what are you thinking on, like, there's a song called the Joni Mitchell song, and he wanted
Right.
these lilting backing vocals kind of, on that song. And I just thought he was crazy. I just thought and I remember I did the backing vocals on that, and I remember being incensed and just like, oh my God, I'll appease you, but we're probably going to cut this, right?
Right.
And I listened to it years later and go, oh, what was I thinking? Of course.
Take me in your arms and shelter me from the harm. 'Cause I never really gonna know which way the wind blows.
He just had that creative, and you can hear it in the Broken Homes too. And, and hopeful, I mean, and his solo stuff. Some of his solo stuff you can find on YouTube, but as far as being downloadable or whatever, I think that's upcoming, because there were a number of people that he really respected Chuck Berry, Jason Hiller, who recorded his stuff that I know really liked how they did things. So I'm hoping that they'll release some.
You mentioned the Joni Mitchell song. I noticed it sounds like an accordion going on in the background there. So who else is playing along with you?
His name is, and I'm gonna, God, please tell me pronounce this correct. Arlen Shirebaum.
Okay.
Sorry, Arlen.
Arlen,
Arlan, an incredible keyboardist, accordion player. On that song, we also had Joel Alpers on that, on drums. And, this was mostly like acoustic, just Michael Doman, Jeff Stevens played, to me, so many of the memorable lines in that song, or all throughout the record, that made it just have this essence to it, and a recognizable lines that he imparted for each song. So Jeff Stevens, Michael Doman, me, Jason Hiller bass, and Joel Alpers drums, and of course Arlen.
Yeah, of course, Arlen. Gotta have him. Very cool. So the record opens with a song that you wrote called "Be the One." So just tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Baby, will you love me? Baby, will you be the one? Baby, will you love me? Baby, will you be the one? Who will love and respect me, love and hold through the years.
And Michael wanted this record. When I was playing back then, my sound, I made a lot more country / kind of hints of bluegrass, because I just thought, I learned to play from my friend Cynthia in college, but also from a friend of mine in the Ozarks. And so I geared more towards that when I met Michael.
Yep.
And he really wanted this record to be more kind of hard, kind of folk rocky, whatever, but not just country or just rock. So that's the story behind that. Do you want to know the background?
I'd love to. Sure. If you don't mind.
No problem. Once again, Michael and I and Jeff are playing that kind of a driving rhythm behind that, a bouncy rhythm.
Yep.
And I think Jason Hiller played the bass drum with the giant mallet, was over there just hitting on this bass drum. And just very simple production, right? And but it's about, when I thought I was getting back together with someone that I was involved with at one time, and it didn't work out. I wish him well. And so I wrote that song because I was very hopeful, and we always talked about watching the sun go down together.
Yep.
On a front porch swing. So
right.
That's kind of the backstory.
Nice. And it's followed by a tune called Bits and Pieces, which is written by Eric Nelson, and it's a duet kind of.
Yes.
So what is it like singing with him?
Well, I know it will get better as the pieces all get shifted. Heart, it will be steady, and the weight, it will be lifted. My spirit and my body will be one, it will be one. Till my spirit and my body will be one.
It was a real honor. It's and I sung with him live a couple times, not a lot, but it was definitely an honor. And I'll say this too. Initially we met at a showcase, and there was a producer who wanted to work with both of us, right? And so this is a part of my bio too, but I remember seeing him, and I said, who is that guy? He looks like, Bob Dylan with the Tom Jones.
Right. Yeah. So.
And
Not a bad look to have, is it?
Yeah. He said, well, that's Michael Doman. And I thought, wow, this is a really quirky guy. But then he got up and played, and he was extraordinary. And I remember him telling me when he saw me, he said, or years later, I said, what did you think of me back then? Because I was in this angsty, angry period of my life, and I was dressed very aggro, whatever. And he said, yeah, he said, you were kind of scary back then. So, but, both of us, I just talked with him after that and got to know him a little bit. And we both decided not to go with this producer. And I was like, well, I'm up a creek now. What do I do? And he said, you know what? I really like your music. It's timeless, but you really need to work on your performance.
Oh,
I'm laughing because he's a perfectionist. And
yeah.
But that was, so
Yep.
I worked for 6 months. I woodshedded for 6 months, worked on my performance. And I said, why don't you come see me at the show? And he agreed, and he went to see me, and he told me he was blown away. He brought his friend Jeff Stevens, who played on the record.
Yep.
And he said, you got to come hear this girl. And so he said he would pay for my record if I would, come up to snuff with my performance. And who can say no to that? So
Exactly. Well, there you go.
I was determined. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm going to hold you to the fire, feet to the fire. So.
Cool. So the record's coming out November 3rd. And my feeling is this is kind of a way of you kind of clearing the way for whatever you want to do next. After, getting this done and out. It's been hanging around for a few years.
Yeah.
What are your plans for yourself for what you want to do musically next?
Well, this has been taken a lot of my energy to get all this going.
Yeah.
And there's, we've got 3 videos for this record that I'm really proud of.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and some surprise guest stars on those. But
No.
I hate to say anything, but I really, I wrote a rock, kind of more of a rock song a la Broken Homes when Mike passed, just to have a form of catharsis. And I was like, yeah, this feels really good. And I noticed on my last record all this time, a lot of people, well, either they went to the more mellow songs or the really rockin' songs. So that's kind of my thought, is to, I don't know. This is kind of I'm a like closet rocker too. I love rock and roll, like Led Zeppelin and the Stones and stuff. I'm like, and Lone Justice. So it'd be cool to do something like that. So that's kind of, I've got some things kind of bubbling.
All right. Well, maybe so you can bring your show down to this part of the world at some point in your
Right? I'd love to do that.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
I would love to see New Zealand.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. We'd love to see you. All right. Better run off. I got a room full of musicians ready to play.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Record.
Thank you so much.
It's one of those days, unfortunately.
One of those days.
But always time for you. Thank you very much. And
Thank you
good
so
luck
much.
with everything. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.